sidekick, Dabby, and it is October 1st, which means it is time for my September wrap-up. This month, I think I was actually on a little bit of a reading slump, although I kind of refused to acknowledge it. So I was constantly reading, but it was taking me a lot longer than normal to read everything. I went into this month partly into A Torch Against the Night by Sabbath Tahir, which came out at the end of August, and I did finish it. It was amazing. I have a book talk for it. In the book talk, I talked about my friend Steph, who I said had a fear of spiders, and that had an influence on how I went into this book. Steph happens to be here today and wanted to argue about her fear of spiders.
Hi, I'm Steph. I personally don't have a fear of spiders. I have a fear of tarantulas, and they were mentioned multiple times in the first couple of pages, so I didn't think I was going to make it through the book, hence why she had to read it first.
Was it barely a mention of tarantulas?
It was still mentioned in the book multiple times in the first couple of pages. It wasn't spiders, it was tarantulas. They're bigger, they're the size of a plate, and they are scary creatures.
Still crazy.
I am a little crazy.
Anyway, this is the second book in the Ember and the Ashes series, and if you have not read them yet, go read them. I have a fandom feels for Ember and the Ashes, and I do have a book talk, like I said, for A Torch Against the Night. I gave this 5 stars, even though it was a little bit slower at the very beginning, but it made up for it by the end. Next up, I read Empire Storms by Sarah J. Maas. This is another book that took me way longer than it should have to read. It took me about 11 days, and I don't know why, because it was fantastic. I gave this one 5 stars too, which I didn't think I was going to, because about halfway through I felt it was a little bit slow and I had a couple issues with it, but the ending of this book was insane. This is in the Throne of Glass series, and I'm not going to say much about this because you need to start with book 1, and this is book 5 or 6, depending if you count the novella series that goes at the beginning. Well, it's a prequel, but you shouldn't read it first because there will be spoilers for other books. Anyway, I do have a book talk for this book, so click the book to check that out. I had a little bit of trouble talking about the first one in this because the series has gone so far in these 5/6 books, and I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with anything Sarah J. Maas does, but this book is just fantastic. And I feel like I say that about everything, but it's true. Next up, I was actually reading 2 books simultaneously, one in audiobook and one in a physical book, and I'm going to talk about the physical book first. I was reading This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. This one I didn't get into as much as some of the others. I had heard wonderful things about it. It is about a girl whose father is in charge of monsters, except for one type of monster, and the city is overrun by monsters, and they're really scary things that eat people. But he's in control, so he can protect the people around. And then it's also about a monster on the other side who doesn't want to be a monster, and there's this whole little who's the real monster in the story type of thing going on. And it was interesting. I really liked the idea. It wasn't my favorite. It was enjoyable. I did enjoy reading it, but it definitely was not my favorite, especially because 2 of my most anticipated reads of the year were within this month. So there's that. The other was the audiobook I read, which I do not have a physical copy of. It was Unspoken by Michelle Reed, which I will put up a thing for, about a girl who lives in a society where everybody is deaf. So over generations, hearing has disappeared, and so it's the norm in the society that nobody can hear. And there are minors, and the main character is a painter, and they paint the news so that they can store what's happening in the world. And things happen. But I really enjoyed it. It doesn't have the best ratings, but maybe it was because I was listening to it in audiobook, which was a little weird, by the way, to be listening to a book about people that can't hear anything. I really did like it, and I did not do a video for that one, partly because of the timing with when I finished it, and I'll get back to that in 1 second. The next book I read, and the reason that I did not do videos for either of the last 2 books I talked about, I did not finish this book yet. I'm currently reading it. It came out on September 27th, and that is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second in a duology, which means a lot of things have to happen in this book. I'm like a third of the way through right now, and it's already really good. I'm obsessed with Six of Crows, which is the first book. I like to explain it as a young adult Ocean's 11 with more romance. The first book is one of my favorite read this right now books for anybody that needs a book to read. This one's fantastic too. I do have a Fandom Feels video for the first one with Kate and Natasha, and I will definitely have a book talk for this when I'm finished, which hopefully will be soon, because I need to keep reading this thing. It has red pages. The first one had black pages. This one has red pages, and the actual book is red too. So it looks really cool naked. That is it for the books I have read and started this month, but I got a whole bunch of other books. One other book I got is The Thousandth Floor by Katherine McGee, and this is one I don't know that much about, and I want to kind of keep it that way because I kind of like going into stories with no background knowledge to see what comes of it. I have heard good things about this. It has some good reviews, but I haven't actually read the reviews to know exactly what it's about, and I would like to keep it that way. That's all I'm really going to say, but I'm excited to read it. I'm hoping to read it by November. We'll see. Next up, I got The Fever Code by James Dashner. This is the prequel to the Maze Runner trilogy, but sequel to The Kill Order. So it comes in between those two things happening, and we get to see how the maze was created. And I don't want to give more information than that, because if you haven't read the Maze Runner trilogy, which you should, it'll be a spoiler. So I think you need to read the Maze Runner before this, because there's information you find out in the Maze Runner that you're not supposed to know going into it that would happen in this. So definitely read the Maze Runner before the prequel, even though in time order this would come first. Next, I also bought And I Darken by Kiersten White. I just found out that Kiersten White is coming to my area in early November. I needed to read to get this. I've also heard amazing things about it. This is another one I know very little about, and I'm going to keep it that way for now, but I have heard wonderful things about it. So that's on my list. Finally, as you might know, I often get books from Entangled Teen. I did an unboxing earlier. In that unboxing, one of the books I got was Chasing Truce, the Eleanor Ames series by Julie Cross. Now, this one, just based on the back, it sounds like it is about a girl whose boyfriend, or maybe just date, commits suicide, but she thinks it's not actually a suicide and he was murdered. And then the person that she thinks murdered him ends up having a deeper story, and she might be falling for him. So that sounds interesting, and as I said when I first found out about this, I hope he's not the murderer if she's falling for him, because that would be weird. But I look forward to reading this. I'm not sure when, because my list of to-read books is really big right now, and only getting bigger in the next week or 5. So we'll see, but I do want to read it at some point. Also from Entangled Teen is Forget Me Always, which is the sequel to Love Me Never, which I did do a book talk on, so click the book to see that book talk. The first one was one I was not expecting to love, but I really did, and I've kind of been dying to get my hands on this book. This is an arc. It comes out exactly 1 month from today, but I really want to read this, and it's going to have to take somewhat of a priority spot because I've been dying to read this, even though I, again, have so many books I need to read. But we'll see. I'm Crooked Kingdom. I love you. It's okay.